passe super, l'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! Vi i semifinale igjen!
Since Chris O'Reilly's been doing so much talking over the last few days, this is Brian Campion bringing you the intro for the Uniformed Handball Hour. And we have one of our semi-finalists confirmed, and it's no surprise that is Denmark. Hello, boys. How are you?
How are you, Campo?
Oh, not too bad. I think probably we should start maybe on the only really good match of the day today, which was surprisingly in such typical Croatian style. You start to play when you're out of the competition. Croatia beating Iceland. And kind of, I think, probably frustrating a lot of neutral fans, because I think everybody at this stage is kind of rooting for Iceland. Is that the feeling you guys are getting?
I think so. After that performance against France, when the entire arena in Budapest got to their feet to celebrate their performance, and even during the game today, when there was the Viking clap going on, the whole arena, including the Croatian fans, getting involved in it, they've become kind of adopted fan favourites. I have a feeling that might change when Aaron Palmerson returns to the squad, as he's not a fan favourite in Hungary. But I think that was the feeling I got for the game today, and it was still a great game though. Like the handball really varied from sublime to the ridiculous, but the flow of the game was super interesting.
I think this tournament generally has been, I know despite all the problems we've had with people being replaced with COVID and all that kind of stuff, but it has been kind of the tournament of the unknown characters and faces springing up out of nowhere, or maybe even players who are fringe players in squads then who have to play a bit of a bigger role. And I think probably a good example of that today was Ori Frier Torkelson, who kind of had a very non-tournament to this point. I think only scored two goals and didn't score in any of the other games. And today comes up and scores 6 and one really, really nice broken wrist shot over Pesic's head, which I think you reacted to pretty largely, Chris, yourself. I think you like that one.
Yeah, well, what I loved about it most than Ori Thorkelson is that I've only been covering Iceland since the main round, and they had Bjarki Mar-Ellison, who was having an absolute screamer of a tournament. And Thorkelson looked really nervous the last couple of games. He was a bit of a liability out there on the left wing, so much so that in the game against France, when he was on a fast break, he smashed Wesley Pardan in the face. He had an entire goal to shoot for, and he just really freaked out. And I made reference to that in the commentary as well, going from smacking a keeper in the face in the fast break to lobbing them with really deft finishes. So it was quite a transformation for him, and it really shows just how important, particularly for wing players, confidence is.
And I think Iceland basically ran out of adrenaline and ran out of steam at the end, because they had their chances to seal the game. They missed 2 quite open shots. They were up 22-21, missed those 2 shots, and let a Gadja, who has been a non-entity in this tournament for Croatia, to get through, which was pretty amazing. I think Iceland were probably happy to let him have that shot, but he scored in the end. But we should probably go back to that France-Iceland game before we move on, because that was really one of the biggest sensations in the tournament so far. And that was basically Iceland at full adrenaline levels, with a depleted squad, with a left-handed centre player. Chris, you have been a left-handed centre player in your past. Do you think that was one of the key advantages for Iceland?
Having been a left-handed centre player, I rarely see that as an advantage for any team. I think in that case it worked a treat, yeah. And in the match, Viggo Kristjansson had the game of his life. Unfortunately, against Croatia, he tried to replicate it and went 0 from 6 today, which is another big point in how it differed for them. But yeah, he had an amazing game, and there were a lot of players. I mean, that's the one thing Iceland have is left-handers. They have 4 right-backs left in the team and then not much else. And when those guys are keeping out Teitur Einarsson, it says a lot. So, yeah, that was it was an inspired performance, not just from him. I mean, Victor Hallgrimsson, we have to talk about as well, because he was phenomenal, very good again today. Just every single player. I mean, Emir Gislason, their young captain, just beast mode in the centre of defence. There wasn't anyone who came on in that game and had a bad game. Just everything clicked for Iceland on that day. And it was amazing. And it's just amazing to compare that Iceland's performance then to Iceland's performance today against Croatia, France's performance then to France's performance against Montenegro. It means that we can't take anything for granted, and that's a really exciting aspect of this.
But then what happened to France then, Brian?
Oh God, it was one of those, it was very early on in the game. I was thinking, I think it's just one of those nights tonight. And it felt like a really special night in terms of, this is a legendary night in terms of EHF Euro big matches, and everything seemed to just go right for Iceland, and France just looked completely out of sorts. And I don't know what that was exactly, but I think probably Hugo Desca was the only one that seemed to be playing well at all. And after that, it just seemed to be, just not finding the rhythm and just kind of completely not at the races. And Nikola Karabatic said after the game that in the dressing room afterwards, some of the conversations they were having, their confidence was absolutely shot to bits. And today's game was a reaction to that. And I think they really wanted to put that behind them, because I think they really didn't expect. They probably felt good going into the Iceland game. And it's really hard for me to put a finger on what went wrong exactly, because it's hard to even see anything that went right in that game for them. And from a team that's usually very consistent as well in France, I mean, you know almost what you're going to get with France, but they just completely weren't at the races. And not to take that at all away from Iceland, because I think that's one of those nights that's going to go down in Icelandic history, and one they won't forget. And why today was also so disappointing when you see Iceland play against Croatia like that and then drop a game like that they really should have won. And I think that's why I'm very sad this evening, boys.
No, but I think the big difference for France was their centre block, and Karl Conan coming in really steadied the ship for them, because everything stems from defence, especially for a team like France, which live on the transition phase. And when the defence isn't working, then their whole play kind of slows down. I think Karl Conan came in and really steadied the ship, and we shouldn't underestimate the fact that France lost both of their central defenders, in Karl Conan and Fabregas, for that Icelandic game. And, Nicola Ternat, an incredible handball player, but just a terrible defender. He was, Magnusson was running rings around him, just shooting under, shooting over, going through. Ternat just wasn't up to it. And even today, in the game against Montenegro, he was kind of pulled quite early and replaced in that centre block. So I think France, it may have been a bit of a freak result. And they still have a bit of momentum going forward. And there's just one more thing that I've noticed. And this came to my attention because of an article that Norwegian TV2 do every year, which ranks the top 50 handball players in the world. And number one...
Stig Nygaard's article.
Yeah, Stig Nygaard makes an article, ranks every player, very difficult list to make, but he had Dika Mem as his number one player. And I noticed that Dika Mem has been a little bit non-existent in this tournament. And I'm going to flip-flop on my opinion again, because just a couple of months ago, I was arguing for Dika Mem to be World Handball Player of the Year for 2021. But I'm going to switch that up and say, where the hell has he been?
He showed up today. He showed it today, but I fully agree, and I wondered that during the game against Iceland, where he was just a complete lack of backcourt power. Not even like synchronizing, but he couldn't even shoot that team 2 days ago, and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal to think. Missing Canton Mahé maybe a little bit as well, stringing it all together. I think he's been maybe an underrated part of this French team at this championship, but yeah. Dicamem was not at the races.
I'm waiting for Dicamem to prove me wrong again.
I can't wait till he scored. He's going to score 12 goals against Denmark now. Single-handedly drag them into the semi-final, and we'll be chatting again.
But that's the type of game you want Dicamem to just show up. And he went 1 from 3. He scored. I think now he scored 23 goals in the tournament, shooting kind of 50-something, low 50s percentage. That's just bang average.
I think we should talk about the red cards. I think in the France game, I think it's not really a whole lot to discuss really in the second half. But I think we should go over it at least because I want to hear your opinions. Because I think Alex, you have very, very strong opinions on this because you were on the tweet machine during the game and you made your opinions very clear. You think neither red card, is that correct?
I think both under the rule book were red cards. So the rules state that any contact with the face, so for Montenegro, Sebastian made contact with the opposing player's face, but it was done in a blocking motion. So he was moving to the side and his hands were up in the air and there was no kind of forward motion of the hands, which I would justify as kind of a red card. But if he's kind of has his hands in the air and the player comes into him, okay, that one I still think it's fair enough. The refs have been very strict on contact with the face in this championship, and it's probably a good rule to have to protect the players at all times. I think in some ways you need to bring intent and the situation into these circumstances. So there was no attempt. There was no intent from Sergejevic to actually hurt the French player. So for me, it was a soft red card, maybe justified. The other red card for Gerard, I'll let Chris speak about.
No, I mean, it was a red card under the rules. And at the end of the day, we have to accept that because that's what the video replay is for. And the Swedish referees, they looked at the video, they saw contact. And so by the letter of the law, they make the call. And we can't blame the referees for that. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're being told what to do. I had a feeling it would be, as soon as I saw that touch on the hand. There was nothing in it. Intent is another thing there, but goalkeepers also know the risks that go in it. My problem here is with Milos Vujovic, who is an early contender for the Adrian Schipos Award for Excellence in Shithousery, because I've had a good look at Montenegro now the last couple of days, and Vujovic is a shithouser. There's no two ways about it. He's a dirty little so-and-so when it comes to the way he plays handball. He's a great handball player. He scores the goals. He gets the job done in the wing. But the way he dove through the air after getting touched on the hand from Gerard, he was like, oh, I got touched. Ah! Flying through the air as if a sniper had taken him out from the upper tiers of the Budapest handball arena was disgraceful. And I said it in the commentary. It's like, there's no room for that in this sport. It's actually disgraceful. And then, some people who are more cynical might think that he even tried to take out the second goalkeeper Pardon on a counter-attack. I was waiting for him to step up for a penalty and smash Pardon in the face with it. That was the point I got to. I was like, this is what he's going to do at some point. He didn't in the end. The hilarious thing about it all is that he does all the post-match interviews and the people he's talking to, he's so kind and so humble. The first thing he does in every interview is congratulate the opponent. It's just like, he is the ultimate, it's just an ultimate mindfuck with Milos Vujovic. I can't wait to get to know him more on the court. You know, some players, they just know how to get shit done, and he's getting shit done.
I think the outrage about the red card, I think the biggest thing for everyone when they saw the replay was the dive. And they saw the dive and then they go, oh, no red card. And I think that's the biggest problem where people were kind of outraged against the red card. If the dive wasn't there, let's just say, and he still got hit, I wonder would the opinion be a little bit different then of the red card.
The actual decision people aren't, I don't think, disagreeing with. I mean, it's the letter of the law. It's more the way he behaved. And I think that says more about people's attitudes in handball and how they don't want shit like that in the sport. Which I think we can all get on board with.
It's fair enough. But there's still a lot to play for in this group. And Iceland, despite their loss to Croatia, are still in pole position for that semi-final spot. A win for them against Montenegro would mean that they would finish on 6 points, which is currently the total France have, but Iceland, of course, have the head-to-head advantage, meaning that France would need to beat Denmark or at least get a point to progress to the semi-finals. And Denmark look pretty unbeatable at the moment, even though Croatia did give them quite a good run for their money. But yeah, Denmark destroyed a Netherlands team that had 0 players available, just Danny Bynes shooting as much as possible.
So let me ask you a question here now, both of you. So you are Nikolai Jakobsen, and you're preparing for this game against France. Do you want to take France out of the competition, play full strength, so you don't have to face them in the semi-finals, or do you rest up and then see what happens, and then maybe just play a B team?
You want to win, and for many reasons. Most of all, the Olympic final a few months ago. What ultimate revenge would it be to knock those so-and-sos out of the actual competition? Yeah, there'd be no messing around. They played with the full-strength team for 45 minutes against the Netherlands. They're not going to mess around with France.
I was looking at that.
Nikolai Jakobsen is in no mood.
I was looking at that. I was like, they're coasting here, and there's a full team on the pitch. I was like, what is going on here? He's really not messing about here. So, yeah, you're probably right.
No. Can I just shout out, I think we've talked enough about this group. Thijs van Leuven, the hero from the Netherlands, 5th choice goalkeeper, brought in from work on a Friday morning, and he's getting the job done. Yeah, really delighted for him. What a story.
Pretty incredible. I think this tournament has been filled with these heroes, and if you keep listening to us or have listened to us in the past, we have an award show, our own award show at the end of every tournament. And I think a category that is required for this one is going to be the super sub. So we'll be speaking about that and many other awards going forward.
Just to give you an idea handball is a sport of the people, and I think that's why everyone loves this story. Just to give you an idea, he had to get permission from his boss to come here, and his agreement was that he would continue working while he's here. So he's still doing some work during the day, so he can then go train and play in the evenings. That was his agreement with his boss. That gives you an idea of one of us. He's one of us, let's just say.
He's one of us, yeah.
Yes, and up next we have a very special guest in Sebastian Barthold, who is having an absolute stormer out on the Norwegian left wing. He is up to 34 goals, joined 3rd on the top scorer list. He's waited a long time to get there, so I met him outside his team hotel for a quick chat in a small park area. So you'll have to forgive me for the background noise. I originally tried to do the interview the evening before, after their win against Spain, but it was cut short because a fire alarm went off. So this is the final version of the interview. Here I am with Sebastian Barthold.
I was talking to you yesterday in the mix zone, and we were interrupted by a fire alarm, so we'll have part 1 and part 2. You were mentioning about this is like a boyhood dream for you. Maybe you could talk us through that a little bit again, your journey to where you are now with the national team.
Yeah, of course. For me, I I never been like a childhood talent. I always wanted to achieve like playing for the national team, playing in the Champions League, everything like that. But started off like a small kid. Just wanted to play. Got to play to the local club in the top division in Norwegian league, and after some years there, I got the chance to go to Aalborg. Had an amazing, have had and still having an amazing time in Aalborg, and I've been close to the national team now for 10 years. But it's been difficult because it's been an amazing Magnus Jøndal ahead of me all the time. So I've been grinding and working hard to get this chance, and now that I'm finally here at the age of 30, I think I really worked hard for it, and I think that's everything now is coming out for me. I just want to be my best every match, and I think that's kind of what, what we can see on the court. I want to give everything for the team to be able to play all the fun games.
And what is it like being filling Jøndal's shoes, for example? Because he's quite a different winger to you, a different style. Did you talk to him at all about his role in the team or anything along those lines?
Well, I've been playing with Jøndal in the national team as well, so I know him quite well. But he, as you say, he's a completely different player than me. We have different styles. We are good at different things. So I just want to contribute with what I can bring to the table, and I believe that's. I have my strength. Of course, I have my weaknesses, but all in all, I feel that this tournament has been great for me. I just want to, every time I step on the court, be able to contribute with, of course, playing well, but also being physical and verbal, and kind of, get my teammates to perform better. So sometimes it's not always about how well you play in defense or how many goals you score. I just want to contribute with getting the fire and spark some extra fighting spirit in the guys. And now we're 16 guys on each game, and furthermore some on the sideline as well. And we all want to contribute to elevate our play. And I think what we achieved now after especially the Russia game has been quite amazing, and we're going into the Swedish game now with a lot of confidence, with a great momentum. So we strongly believe in our quality as individuals and as a team, and we're just really happy with the situation we're in now, where we can decide our faith ourselves, and we want to go to Budapest and play the really fun games.
Speaking about fire, it's something you don't really see on TV, but I've seen a lot. I see all the teams before they go onto the court, and something which is really unusual what you guys do, you're actually beating lumps out of each other before you go on the court. Could you talk to us through, and some players, I won't name names then, but some more than others, what's going on there?
We have some crazy guys on the team, and we all have different roles, or we take different roles in the team. It's not always what you do on the court is everything. So it's important that we all contribute in the essence that we want to be at our best every time we step on the court. We want to be ready for the match, both physically and mentally. And we have some guys that are from the hoods in Norway that are ready to give it some fight. So they take some extra big part in the pre-match there to fire up the guys. So. It gets physical sometimes, but at least we're ready for the first tackle.
And I think the Spanish game yesterday was one you were particularly fired up for. I could see that as well backstage. It's been a name on the European circuit that you haven't really conquered yet. And to conquer that yesterday, to get over your own problems you had with Spain in the past, and then also to end their run must have been doubly sweet.
It's amazing for us. It's back in 1997 that we last beat Spain, and what is it, like 25 years ago? So it's been a ghost hanging over over the national team for a long time now. We have had trouble finding solution to the Spanish defense, but I think the main key factor for us yesterday was amazing defense, and we had goalies in each half that played tremendously. So. We're just really happy on how we attacked and executed the match, and we're really satisfied with the result, of course.
And how have you managed to muscle Sander off the penalty spot and start taking all the penalties?
It's penalties shots is it's a funny thing because it's a lot about the mental thing, and when you're in the flow, you're in the zone. It kind of gets easier for each shot you take, and of course it vice versa. If you start missing, it's even more, it's harder, of course, but it's a mental game, and Sander is also ready to take some penalties whenever it's time for that. So I'm just going to keep shooting those penalties until I miss, and then I'm sure Sander Sagosen is ready to pick up where I left.
And of course, you're coming up now against some teammates tomorrow in the Sweden match. I think it was just announced that Felix Klar has COVID, so he probably won't be playing. But you will be coming up against Lucas Sandell. Do you speak to them at all before the game, telling them, guys, you're going to get it tomorrow, or what's the banter like?
The mind games haven't started just yet, but it's a shame that Felix is out. He's proven himself that he's one of the top 3-5 players in attack in the world at the moment. So that's a big loss for Sweden, of course. And I was looking forward to play against Felix. I never done that, so I know all his dirty secrets. So I would love to play against him. But Lucas, I have some stuff on him as well. So we're getting ready for the match, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of interesting duels internally in the game, as well as, of course, the Norwegian-Swedish rivalry that exists in every sport. So we're just really, really excited for the match, and we hope it's going to be a great match.
This is my last question now. Before the tournament, a lot of people were kind of writing Norway a little bit off, saying that they've kind of teams have figured them out, and even at the start of the preliminary round, people were saying the same things. What has changed from the first few games in the preliminary round to now that looks like a completely different Norway team from your perspective?
We had a massive hit to our confidence in the match against Denmark prior to the tournament. So we might have come into the tournament a bit, not feeling our top level at the moment, but we have strong belief in what we can do. We have done some tremendous trainings, so we know we can. It was just about getting every piece of the puzzle together so that we can get it all out in a single match. And once we started doing that, it's about a momentum. It's about keeping that flow, and we played I believe 3 really, really good games now after each other now. So we have a lot of confidence and a momentum that we're bringing into the Sweden game now. So we believe that we can win, but I think Sweden does so. So it's whoever gets everything to click at the game that gets the points and goes to Budapest.
Best of luck. I hope we see you in Budapest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Sebastian, who has really, again, talking about working class heroes, probably another level to that, going from a fairly average handballer on the fringes of the Norwegian team to a star player on Aalborg and Norway this year. But what I found most interesting is one of his last points in that interview, where he talked about how the Norwegian team became so disheartened after their friendly game against Denmark before the tournament, and was potentially the cause of their, tumultuous start to this tournament. And it kind of brought me back to thinking about these friendly games that happen before a tournament. And usually we do see teams, kind of the top level teams, facing each other and kind of coming to blows before a championship, which doesn't seem like a great idea. But it seems like they have their mojo back. They're past their tumultuous start. They have beaten Spain for the first time in 24 years and now set up a huge Scandi derby against Sweden to potentially progress to a semi-final spot. I wasn't expecting them to get back into it. I don't think a lot of people did expect it, but can we really nail down what has changed and why they're actually thriving now?
I think for me it has to be this. I said it before as well. I think there's secondary players who kind of stood up. I think a player like Toft, while he wasn't maybe as good in that game as he was in the game against Germany, he did still score 4, and he does add he's kind of maybe has a bit of a dynamism that kind of reminds me of the type of players that sprung up when Norway had this whole run in 2016. And I think for me, the kind of, as you touched on, Alex, before, a little bit less pressure maybe on Sagosen to perform, therefore a little bit less emphasis on him on the court in terms of like not just giving him the ball and see what Sagosen can do. So they seem to have shaken off those cobwebs a little bit, and they just seem to have to build up a little bit of momentum. And maybe the loss against Denmark was a good thing in the run up, that 10 goal loss, and then maybe a kick up the arse after losing to Russia was also maybe a good thing for them. And they're really pumped. They were really pumped up for that game against Spain, and they looked really incredible. And it's really kind of changed my mind on, if you asked me a few days ago, Sweden, Norway, I originally had that +5 win for Sweden on the match predictor app, and then I changed it just before the Sweden game just to a 1-goal win for Sweden. And now I'm thinking about changing it to a +3 goal win for Norway. So I'm really going all over the map here. It's really, really hard to know what's going to happen, because Sweden looked very good a few games ago, and then against Germany we're making a wild amount of mistakes. And now if you're going to go on form, you'd have to say that Norway look the best right now.
What I was super impressed by in Norway against Spain, and I compared it to the quarterfinal they played in the World Championship last year, where Spain were straight away so physically dominant and psychologically dominant as well in that game. They just like really shut down Norway and everything they did. Norway did that onto Spain this time. And, you know, Sander Øvrejoret scored some ridiculous goals. Erik Toft, I still think, played a really good game, not as much as against Germany, but they used these guys so much that Sander Sagosen could play the first 10 minutes, and then he didn't play until the last 20 minutes. Like they're like, we trust these guys to put us in a situation that we can win, and then we'll bring Sander on for the last 20. And if he needs to do something amazing, then he has the energy to do it. Instead of you blow your load in the first 15 minutes, keep us in the game, and then we're going to fall apart. I mean, it sounds so simple in the end, but they finally have a group of players to make it happen. And yeah, when you can bring on Sander Sagosen with 15-20 minutes left, and then bring on Christian O'Sullivan with 10 minutes left to see the game out, it's like, well, you know, all of a sudden it looks like this squad has depth.
Yeah, and if you're a new listener to this podcast, please don't listen back to a few episodes ago when we were talking about Norway not making any development and not progressing in any way. You can just ignore all that stuff, because we're totally Team Norway now for the next game against Sweden.
Go back to the pre-championship interview with Sander Sagosen.
Exactly.
I think I'm still Team Sweden here. I predicted them to win the tournament. I don't, I'm not fully confident in that, but I am confident that they can beat Norway. Of course, the latest news about Felix Klar and Palika will impact that game and potentially the tournament. But Sweden have Max Derge back, which is very positive for them, and hopefully turns around their defensive woes. But they've already seemed to figure that out a little bit. And what I've noticed about Sweden is that I think they've completely changed from the way they play on purpose. So what I mean by that is they kind of burst onto the scene with this fast counter-attacking style. And then we were talking about how they slowed down in this tournament. But looking back at it, or looking back at the last couple of games, it seems like Sweden are slowing down games on purpose, working on that set attack. They do a lot of play with second line players. I think they're the best team in the tournament at using their wings as a second line player. So, but that kind of extends the attacks and really drags teams down. And that may be a tactic that they developed to beat faster teams like Denmark and France, to really slow them down and are playing the long game. But it seems like they're doing it on purpose. And I think they can do this to Norway as well.
I'd noticed that in the Germany game. That reminded me, the Germany-Sweden game reminded me a lot of the Denmark-Croatia game. And Denmark in that situation knew they needed to dictate the pace in the way they don't usually do. And Sweden knew they needed to dictate the pace that way as well. And if you think about Hampus Vanna and Niklas Ekberg being your first two wingers in a perfect situation, then using them as second line players is perfect. Because how many times can you imagine them in the Bundesliga or the Champions League coming in as second wing players and getting goals? It's an awful lot. So yeah, that's a good call there. And hard to know how they'll react without Palika. They have a lot of goalkeepers. They need one of them to step up on the day. I don't know if there's anything else in this group to go into, except that Kosarotov is a beast. even if he takes 4.5 steps.
If you're going to score, I honestly think if you're going to score from that far out, you should be able to take 4 or 5 steps. Like if you're going to shoot from there, that's fair. Like if you're going to really launch from that far out, take 5 steps. Look, go for it. Like look how far you're shooting out. How far away you're shooting from it. It's fair.
Yeah, every 3 meters away from the 9 meter area, you get another step.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a pretty good rule. I like that.
That would be.
Just need another line.
So shall we make some wild predictions here? I have a feeling our predictions are going to be different for who's going to the semi-final from the two groups.
There's predictions and then there's permutations. And I think in this group 2...
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
There are some interesting permutations. And I will leave that to Chris O'Reilly, our expert mathematician.
I've only got one question to ask. If Spain lose to Poland, are Norway and Sweden going to play out an 18-18 draw or a 40-40 draw? And both teams go through.
Okay, so they're the two scorelines that are needed to...
No. I mean, either a really low-scoring game or a really high-scoring game. Any kind of draw will do. If Spain lose to Poland, then we're in a really unique situation where that'll be the case. Or if Spain draw and then Norway and Sweden draw, then it's Norway and Spain who go through. And Sweden... will be left out. But Spain are not going to lose to Poland, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think so, wouldn't you? But I mean, they play well against Russia.
You never know at this point. Yeah. And it's all up in the air, and Spain really struggled with the attack against Norway. So if Spain don't get the job done, then they're in serious danger. They seem pretty safe, but imagine that, losing in the opening game, and then seeing Spain and Norway draw. No, Sweden and Norway draw, sorry.
And also, if Spain do lose to Poland, which again, I just something tells me this Polish team is going to be really angry going into this game. Just something happened in that last game that might set them off and make them want to prove a point. And if Poland do win that game, and Sweden beat Norway, it is still Sweden and Norway to go through because Norway and Spain will be level on points. So I don't know, Spain looking a bit shaky.
I think it's a bad, stylistically it's a bad matchup for Poland though. I think somehow it's one thing Poland and Russia kind of old school type of handball coming against each other, but I feel like the speed of Spain could be a big problem for Poland over 60 minutes. I think it would be close for 40, and then I don't know. I find it hard to somehow it's either going to be a draw or Spain will win by 8 or something like that. I don't see anything in the middle really.
We'll have to wrap this up, or the podcast won't get out in time for the start of that game tomorrow. So quickly then, without any explanations why, which 3 teams will join Denmark in the semi-finals? Alex?
Sweden, Norway, France.
Brian?
I'm going to go Iceland. Why not? Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Spain.
I fully agree with you, Brian. We'll find out very shortly. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll catch you after the main round and before the semi-finals.